Welcome to the Healthy Hustling Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Broadworth, and today I have an amazing guest with me. I have Forrest from Kineon. He is the CEO and co-founder. He's an entrepreneur, a business operator, strategic planner, and leader, and it is an absolute pleasure to have him on. Thanks for coming on, Forrest.
Thank you. So excited to be here with you today, and I really appreciate the opportunity. It's going to be a super exciting, fun discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be talking about red light therapy versus traditional recovery methods and what's the best approach. Because I think we both get these questions quite a bit, and there's more and more literature and things like that that are coming out about red light therapy, but people have all sorts of questions because of all the different uses of how do we use this thing, right? And Kineon's just done, I think, a fantastic job of being able to incorporate it into someone's recovery. So if you're listening and you are an athlete, you're going to want to tune in, take some notes, or if you're dealing with any nagging ache, pain, anything like that, this episode is going to be packed full of some information for you on breaking down. Do you do red light therapy? Do you do traditional recovery approaches? What's going to be best? So, you know, a quick success story that I have about red light therapy and its effectiveness is just that we we've had even just recently, a girl came in with juvenile arthritis. Okay, so this is a fairly rare condition, and she's tried different things and has had knee pain, both knees, and nothing really seems to help. She has utilized red light therapy and seen an just immediate difference and was pretty blown away by it all. So it's stories like that that just have me promoting this thing because I think more and more people that if you have not tried it, you need to try it because it is going to speed up healing and it can help you get over that hump maybe that you haven't been able to get over. So, can you explain for us maybe a little bit of the science behind red light therapy and how it works?
Absolutely. And first of all, let me say thank you for relating that story. We're a mission-driven business, and our mission is to increase the quality of life for the largest number of people we can in the most measurable way we can. And that's exactly why we're here. This juvenile arthritis story is just like that really makes my day, and it's exactly why we started the company. To address the question about how red light therapy works, though, I think there's there's a there's a number of headlines that we can kind of give the headline first and then dive in and kind of go into the science of what mechanisms drive that. But let's give the headlines first. Reduced inflammation. And inflammation is a scourge in your body, and we can kind of talk about why reducing inflammation is so powerful and so impactful for so many different things in the body. Increased blood flow. By releasing nitric oxide into the blood vessels, there's an increase in the blood flow to the area, which allows more oxygen and other nutrient delivery. Reduced oxidative stress, and this shows up in a couple of different ways that are really powerful, but it really just means protecting the tissue and making it healthier and safer. Even when it's hypoxic, or even when there's really strong stressors on the tissue. And I would say that the final thing is increasing the level of energy produced by each cell in the mitochondria. And that's a bit of a kind of biochemical one to jump in. But the mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cells, there are production constraints or bottlenecks in that factory of energy that your mitochondria represents, and we help remove one of those. And there's some really good ways that applies for downstream signaling in your body. But that's the big headlines. I think those are the big ones where we really see the impacts most deeply validated by the medical research and by the number of outcomes that this drives for people on a daily basis.
Yeah. And then there's all sorts of different devices too on how to go about with red light therapy. You have everything from beds and pads and panels. You have the Kineon Move Plus device, which I haven't quite seen anything like it, which I think is its own special device, right? There it is right there. Um, can you explain, I guess, explain how the Kineon device might be a little bit different? So, a lot of people, I think most people, when they think of red light therapy, more and more people are hearing about the bed. So, like in my clinic in Grand Rapids at Fuel Health and Wellness, we have a full body bed system. Push a button, lay in, you can hit full body photobiomodulation. It's really good for if you want to hit full body, and there's a number of reasons to do that. And then you can get as specific as something like the Kineon, where you have tennis elbow and you strap that on, and you're only applying light to a specific joint or part of the body, which some of those smaller like panels, you argue can that's what those are meant for as well. But do you want to explain maybe the difference between the Kineon then in a panel on why you do one versus the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some really good, just to kind of start in, beds and studies on beds as to what that does systemically. Your skin is your largest organ, and when you're treating with kind of a full body device, there's a number of things that happen systemically. The panels are a little bit harder to dose because with the bed you're at a set distance, and those distances relative to dosing for the skin and kind of the more superficial tissue have been relatively well documented and well researched. What we found with most users with panels, however, is that there's when you move back or you move forward 2 inches from the panel, it changes your dose dramatically. And we don't think about it that way, but when we're delivering photons into these photoacceptors, it's very much like delivering pharmaceuticals. The dose is everything, and if we kind of give and it's not to knock anyone's product from kind of from a panel standpoint. I think we consider those very good first generation products because it was an easy way to get red light therapy out to a large number of people, and you can see some solid benefits from these, particularly in your superficial tissue. One of the things that we've worked on with tens of thousands of hours from our research and development team is how do we deliver the best dosing, not just for the superficial tissue, but also for the internal tissue. And lasers is the answer. It's a more expensive system and a more complex system to launch because of regulatory, because of the part cost, because of the sophistication of the system. But it delivers those photons to the photoacceptors in a very planned and strategically patterned way. And the way that we pattern this delivery from a dosing standpoint is we build from what we want to achieve. We know where these photoacceptors in the body are. We know how many of them are there, and we know at what depth of tissue they are. The difficult part then is saying, how do we build these mathematical models that show the photon distribution inside the tissue? And so we've been through 30 or 40 upgrades on our mathematical models, which are built in something they call Monte Carlo models, to show how those photons distribute and how we can most effectively impact the tissue and dose that tissue internally. And so the differences you may see from kind of more superficial dosing is typically at a skin level or superficial level with LED systems. You're looking at things like increased levels of type 2 collagen, kind of anti-aging, less wrinkles, your skin looks younger. What we're doing with the Move Plus is we're dosing with lasers internal tissue, so blood tissue, where hemoglobin is a great example of a photoacceptor that we target specifically. And when we hit hemoglobin with infrared 808 nanometer light, it releases nitric oxide into the blood. That does two things. The hemoglobin is a carrier molecule that we kind of learn in high school carries oxygen through the body. But come to find out, it also binds nitric oxide on those same 4 binding sites on hemoglobin. When you release nitric oxide actually dilates the capillaries and blood vessels in your body and provides better blood flow to the tissue that you're treating. It also takes the nitric oxide out of one of those binding sites and allows oxygen to bind there. And so you do two things. You get a better oxygen delivery to the tissue, and by freeing up and allowing oxygen to bind more effectively, and you open the blood vessels to be able to deliver that blood more effectively to this tissue. And that's a good example of one of the things where we target more effectively internally with lasers. I would say the other piece of it is this inflammation. When we're targeting internal tissue, as an example with arthritis, with osteoarthritis of the knee. What you're seeing with osteoarthritis of the knee is a higher level of inflammation in your synovial fluid. That's hard to treat with LED-based solutions because you're just not able to penetrate through to that. What we found is even with the lasers, if someone doesn't bend their knee and apply to the bent knee where there's a channel into that synovial fluid, it's very hard for us to dose it as well. So we have specific protocols to be able to treat soft tissue, cartilage, ligaments, really kind of muscle recovery as well for the internal tissue. We focus less on the superficial kind of skin level outcomes and are really focused mainly on pain, inflammation, and soft tissue improvements from a quality of tissue.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a great explanation. And so we hit a little bit on some of the primary benefits then of red light therapy are increasing vasodilation, which is opening up those blood vessels to allow for better blood flow or circulation and improve oxygen delivery to the tissues, which is going to have a whole series of effects. And then do you want to explain, I guess, how it can help with, say, pain reduction? And it basically with that vasodilation is flushing out some of that inflammation, but pain reduction, do you want to hit on that, on how it's helping with pain reduction?
Absolutely, and we do try to provide reasonable expectations for things. When the pain is inflammation based, we actually have a much bigger impact. So sometimes there are mechanical pain points that we see with different patients and users, and that can be something like often we'll see hip pain and lower back pain where there's inflammation involved, and we help with the kind of marginal piece where the inflammation is involved. We also change how the body signals from a pain standpoint, but those are relatively marginal if it's a foundational or mechanistic pain that you're seeing there. Where we have a really big impact is if there is neurological or metabolically influenced or inflammation influenced pain, and that can be anything from diabetic neuropathy to again, osteoarthritis is one that we treat very, very well just because of the inflammation kind of piece of that. But yeah, there's a number. Even fibromyalgia actually is a. Although interestingly enough, this is something where we've been doing some studies with. Fibromyalgia is an interesting one because it's multivariate, and there's a number of different things that are kind of potential causes for it, kind of like headaches. There's like 8 or 9 different causes for headaches.
Yeah.
So if you treat one of those, you're not necessarily treating all of them. But what we found with these is that a lot of the treatment and the impacts of treatment is based on the change in inflammation. And then if this is something where for fibromyalgia, we found that treating transcranially as well as treating the areas of pain actually has a very strong impact for it, because part of what we're treating is the degradation of neurological tissue. So essentially, for lack of a better term, unraveling of nerves in your body causes some of this pain. And much of that's driven by metabolic issues, which is why you see kind of, neuropathy and things like this that are big causes for pain and peripheral issues as well.
Yeah, the nervous system, the effects that this can have on the nervous system is pretty astounding. It really is, and what we've seen in our clinic as well. Are there any common myths, I guess, that you see that you think would be good to overcome? Some people think, well, is this safe, right? If you're dealing with lasers, am I going to burn myself? What I tell people overall, the safety profile, it's very safe. What are your thoughts there?
That's a great question. We deal with lasers a lot because there's kind of this Hollywood kind of cultural view to lasers, sharks with lasers, and we get a lot of funny questions in from different users about this. And the truth of the matter is that these lasers have been specifically selected from a power level to be safe even for your eyes. So even with ours, these are class one lasers. They're safe. We wouldn't recommend staring into them because it can give you a headache, but it's not going to burn your retinas or anything like this. These are class one lasers, so completely safe for use even without eyewear. What we find a lot of, I think one of the things that we see a lot of inertia around from an education standpoint is a lot of people have been trained to take pills and feel comfortable with pills, even though the performance from a pain reduction standpoint is less, and even though those pills can increase risks for them from kind of stomach to liver to cardiovascular risks that people are unaware of. And I think this is one of the things where we spend a lot of time kind of talking about comparing red light therapy from a usage and treatment standpoint with things like nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So a lot of people get an ibuprofen from their doctor and then would think that, oh, because I've gotten this from a doctor, this is going to be completely safe for me to take, chronically ongoing. And we actually had a very interesting talk with one of the foundational researchers in NSAIDs, and one of the things that she brought to light for myself, because I didn't know this at the time either, was that regardless of your age or sex or height or weight, if you're taking NSAIDs chronically, you increase your risk of severe cardiovascular disease by 50%. And so,
Wow.
that's a really big number, and particularly for our older, if you're a 6-year-old, your risk profile is low. Increasing it by 50%, you're probably not increasing it that much objectively. But if you're an older user of NSAIDs, 50% is massive. Your risk is already not small, and then increasing that by 50% is incredibly powerful. And taking the opportunity to not do that, to invest in something that's going to be able to allow you to heal the mechanistic underpinning for your pain versus trying to kind of take the batteries out of the smoke alarm, as it were. With the pills, it just seems like a better option. And we do try to kind of focus on that from an educational standpoint as much as we can.
Yeah, so let's get right into some of the traditional recovery methods. And so your typical approaches, like you said, are going to be like the NSAIDs, right? So taking medication there, ice, heat, physical therapy, compression, some of the benefits of, if we're talking traditional recovery, maybe more potentially cost effective. I would say that's a toss up, depending on how much you're spending on some of those things. Like pain medication, there is a cost to, even if your insurance covers it, it will come back to you. The insurance companies aren't just going to give it away for free, so you'll see your premiums jump up. But accessibility, and then some things being evidence back for certain injuries. So, and then limitations when it comes to traditional recovery methods, though, are like one of the things that I've seen very interesting. Let's talk hamstring strains. If we're talking a muscle strain, and our ability to heal a muscle strain has not improved in like the 20-25 years that we've been doing research on it. Like they've been doing research on hamstring strains. How do we get them to heal quicker? They haven't healed any quicker.
No.
It's crazy. It's crazy. What are we maybe seeing though? And I think part of that, right, is the body's ability to heal itself.
Yes.
Is there a benefit for speeding up healing with the use of photobiomodulation, red light therapy, whatever you want to call it?
100%. Yes. And it's one of the main things that's exciting for us as, for me as a middle-aged guy now. I'm 45 this year, and I probably would not, I'm still playing competitive sports, rugby and CrossFit, and seeing injuries. And I don't think our parents' generation would have had this opportunity to be empowered to kind of heal those things in a meaningful way. And one of the things that we see around this is we do work with a lot of different professional athletes, and there's been more and more work from a research standpoint around this recently. But if you see someone who's had an injury, their potential or possibility or probability for re-injuring that versus injuring another part of their body is massively increased. And so just digging into this with some of our athletes, we've put them on infrared cameras, and you can see cold pools of tissue where the cardiovascular and blood delivery in that area is impaired by the inflammation that traumatic tissue damage has caused. And so one of the things that we've done is built a protocol with them to be able to, within 4 to 5 weeks, see that blood delivery, that 1 to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius differential in temperature really indicates a massive difference from a blood delivery and a nutrient delivery to the area, and is one of the causes for those ongoing injuries of the same area for athletes. When 4 to 5 weeks of this treatment, you actually level those blood delivery numbers out from a temperature standpoint, which is really powerful. I think the other piece of this is that we're seeing really good results for around things like muscle tissue damage is muscle inflammatory markers. And we actually track this a little bit more from a recovery from an intense workout standpoint. But things like creatine kinase and C-reactive proteins are very good muscle kind of breakdown, for lack of a better term, inflammation markers. And these are reduced respectively over 60% and over 80% in a 24-hour period just by treating with the Move Plus. And so the data is very clear on this, is when you can start removing that inflammation, what you see is growth factors coming into the area and being able to repair and heal much faster. And it's almost kind of like having your own Wolverine device. You're back into healing and feeling better. And the main thing is, at least again from my personal experience and what we've seen with some of the older athletes that I now qualify as with the gray hairs I'm developing, is that you don't feel like you have to pull up short from the training, from intense competition, because you can go back through a healing process much, much faster. And so the empowerment from that to be able to go keep doing things that you've been doing from an activity standpoint really just feels great. You feel much more empowered and confident about that versus having to kind of rein in and modulate what you're training and what you're playing and what sports and competition level you really push yourself to.
Yeah, I would agree. It's really taken a lot of that, and you just people feel better, like, right? So that then gives you the confidence to be able to get back at it and not be as worried that you're going to have some sort of flare up or set yourself back or have some sort of re-injury. Do you know, and I'm just curious if you know of any case studies showing how quickly red light therapy will accelerate healing versus traditional methods, off the top of your head, not to put you on the spot or anything?
Yeah, we've got a full page that I can send you over and kind of provide a little background for this. It really depends on the type of tissue that you're damaging. So herniated discs on the far end of the spectrum are very slow. It's months of recovery, but that recovery is still kind of 50 to 60% faster than you would see without the laser therapy for that type of tissue. When it is muscle tissue, it's at a much faster rate. You're starting to see changes. You start to see those inflammation changes in a 24-hour period, and you start to see the recovery trajectory change over the first week. And so the soft tissue like ligaments and kind of different cartilage in your body, really just kind of that slower growth soft tissue in your body is kind of in the middle of that. But I think, and bones actually are impacted by this as well. So you as long as you have the bones actually in contact with them again, if there's a gap in the middle, and they haven't parsed exactly why yet, but if there's a gap in the bone break, it doesn't increase that regrowth. But with the osteoblast increase, if the bones are closed, if the break is closed, it does increase the speed of that. But again, that's even slower than kind of like the herniated discs and things like this.
Yeah. What would you say? So if someone is dealing with an issue, are there instances where you would recommend photobiomodulation or red light therapy alone or traditional methods alone and then combining them? How, in your opinion, like how would you recommend separating those issues, if at all?
So I think with the rehab and movement based solutions, it's a great pairing.
So your
This is
physical
something
therapy type stuff.
that's exactly right.
Yep.
So we're finding we work with a number of different healthcare professionals, and one of the things that they're super excited about is a lot of times they'll provide a recovery path or plan or rehab plan, particularly to their older patients. And as an example, my parents have done the same thing. You see them get a plan for this. They've hurt their knee. They have a walking kind of increased rate of walking, and then stair step ups and things like this. And they'll do something, and they'll tweak that same knee as part of the walking. And it's something where they you can push through some of this. You don't want to push through things that you're in extreme pain, but a lot of these things you can actually push through. And when you have the device like this that reduces the swelling and inflammation and pain that you feel, and you can get back into your walking the next day, the empowerment that people find out of this, they stay on they maintain the program much, much longer. And so the healthcare professionals have been super excited about it because they can get people to take the devices home and stay on top of their rehab and really see much more powerful outcomes because of that.
Yeah. I would agree. What we recommend in our clinic is really a combination approach, right? Of using evidence-based methods for treating tendons, ligaments, pain, wherever the root cause of the pain is, doing the right exercises, mobility drills, stretches, things like that. But then we're going to speed it all up with the photobiomodulation and the light therapy by adding that into it. And we do a mix of in-home as well as, again, what I love is with the Kineon, you can send that home with someone and now they can do it on their own too. So they get a little bit of both. They get the in-person benefits of coming into the clinic, and then they can continue to get relief and see progress at home at a much faster rate. So yeah,
Oh, that's
that's
so
what I love.
exciting.
What
I
are
love hearing these
some,
things. Yeah.
yeah, what are some real world, I guess if you have to pick a favorite success story or real world example, do you have one?
I have a couple of types, and I'll tell you the ones that are exciting on one side of the spectrum, which is we're working with NFL players, we're working with Major League Baseball pitchers, we're working with Olympic lifters and special forces operators, and really people at the peak of performance, which is really cool. But I have to say, my favorite stories are just people who are getting back into movement and will have an extended lifespan because of this. And I think that's when we're looking at people in their 60s, 70s, 80s who are having one of the main issues that we see with a lot of the older users that we have is that when they have especially a lower body, a hip or a knee or an ankle issue, they stop moving as much. And you start seeing these metabolic kind of downstream impacts. And it puts them, without knowing it, on this kind of mortality spiral. And being able to see people come out of that and like, my wife could walk across a grocery store. She's been having to use a scooter for like 5 years. She's now back to walking across the grocery store. Or my husband can walk up the stairs. Or, she can sleep through the night, and she hasn't been able to do that for 10 years because of chronic pain. That's that's the most exciting piece to me.
Yeah, I would say, some of I think, and I would agree with that. It is wild for your older individuals where they have a surgery, sprain an ankle, something like that, and all of a sudden they're not moving as much. They can't get in the gym, they can't go on their daily walk, and now they're more sedentary. And we know if you're not moving, you're dying. That's
Yes.
just the truth. That's a fact. You've got to keep moving in order to live a quality life and stay alive. That's what our bodies are meant to do. I really love seeing the quick results with these type of things, and it never ceases to just amaze me when you get someone in, and the arthritis example at the beginning with the juvenile arthritis is one, but also two where I've seen where someone with a quick ankle sprain, right? We'll have
Yes.
someone who our one location is inside of a CrossFit box. So we'll have someone that gets injured right there. They get in with a sprain strain, we'll put some light therapy on it, and they are back and moving in the gym as soon as the next day, and they're surprised that they're back in the gym the next day. So if the quicker you can get on it and get that light on the tissue, the better results you're going to get. So that's what I always tell someone. I tell everyone at the gym, if you get hurt in the gym, stop right by our office. Let's get this going and let's not delay. We're going to speed it all up.
No, that's 100% right. And I think just to kind of flesh that out a little bit, the protective effects on the tissue are incredible. I mentioned this earlier as one of the big headlines for it is reducing oxidative stress. And two things, ankles are an amazing example of that, especially when it's a very recent injury. But two things that we also see just from a literature standpoint, and that we're providing devices for different medical facilities for, is strokes and heart attacks. So when you have a heart attack, your heart tissue is just not getting oxygen or blood, and the same thing for parts of your brain from a stroke. You can actually keep those from dying by treating them with photobiomodulation, and we're seeing some really cool research around this. But it's that's at kind of the far end of the spectrum. But I think that the main thing is, the faster you can get this on injuries, the more protected you'll find that soft tissue, that muscle, that kind of disc in your back, et cetera. And the protective effects are very, very meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that about the strokes and that kind of thing. So that is very interesting. I'll have to look at some of those papers. Going into addressing maybe some skepticism and some of the common questions, what is the cost and value as far as like the in your ROI of red light therapy devices compared to ongoing costs of traditional treatment methods? Obviously, some people say, "Is this can be expensive? Is it worth it?" What are your thoughts there?
So our goal was, and I think we've done a reasonable job of it, and we're going to continue to work at this when we started developing the product, was to take a $30,000 to $50,000 device that was kind of tied to a desktop and plugged into the wall, and make it something that people could afford to use in home. And I think this is something where you do have to think about what the long-term effects are. How do I get healthier tissue? What can I do today so that 20 years from now, my body, you're not going to be able to change bodies. How can you invest in having a healthier body today and reducing inflammation and improving the quality of your soft tissue, of your cardiovascular tissue? The ongoing cost of that, what that impacts from your brain, from how, your quality of life, it's hard to put a price tag on. And again, we're not perfect. We haven't been able to make it free yet. But I do think that one of the things that we'll see over the coming years is the medical literature and the changes that we're seeing based on the treatment are becoming more and more widely recognized. And so I do think that we will see insurance and telemedicine and a number of different things start adopting this. We've even been approached by a number of insurance companies about how do we get this into programs with with broader swaths of population, because they're going to see much less hospital costs long term because of that. And I think that's going to be a big driver for kind of adoption longer term, is reducing those costs to the end user, and making sure that they're in line with what they're paying essentially.
Yeah. No, I think that that's great. And you are very correct in terms of you only get one body. I myself have been through like three surgeries over the last 3 years. And so that recovery is it's not fun, but you know what? You move forward and you do the best you can, and you 1% better every day. That's my philosophy. And whether that's my personal growth, my physical health, and you got to take care of it. You can't just assume that, yeah, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be fine if I don't do the right things. So I think this is a great way to really take control of your health and speed up healing, get everything moving in the right direction. How are you seeing, if there's healthcare providers listening, how are you seeing people integrate the red light therapy into their existing services? What are you seeing on your end?
Oh, I love it. This I have to say that you guys have the kind of fun end of this. We get stuck back in the laboratory and back behind the curtain trying to make product changes and assumptions that will help drive the less friction for people to use this. But I love the ideas. So some of the ideas that we've seen people using very effectively are getting this on patients as kind of a warm up while they're waiting, before they go in for a treatment. One of the other ones that we see quite a lot, and it's been really useful for people, both from a clinician standpoint, but from the patient standpoint as well, is rental programs. So renting the devices out to patients, and with the idea of if you like it, then we'll apply your rental fees towards your purchase. And we see a huge level of these. I love that because it really holds us kind of accountable for if we're not delivering the results, then no one's going to buy it. But we have a huge hit rate on this right now. When people get to take it home and use it, they're very happy with the outcomes and they end up buying it. And so that's been a really exciting kind of thing to see. But from treating different pathologies, I think knees, ankle, joints are in general a really big kind of, particularly when it's a chronic pathology like osteoarthritis or chronic pain of some sort around an old injury from an inflammation. Traumatic tissue damage really just long term generates so much chronic inflammation that we don't have other tools to be able to address that very effectively and really solve the problem, put the fire out in the kitchen, as we say, versus taking the batteries out of the smoke detector. What we and we use that analogy to kind of indicate that like you can take pills and not hear the smoke detector kind of beeping, but that's really just like letting that inflammation in your kitchen keep burning, and your house is going to burn down. Like you have to go address the underlying mechanism, and so yeah, that's really inflammation based chronic issues have been kind of the bread and butter of how we see clinicians using this in clinic.
Yeah. Yeah. And so to give some users insight too as to how we use it, we have several different devices. I mentioned we have the full body beds. We do have some class 4 lasers that are pretty powerful. So what we'll do is we'll usually apply those obviously in the clinic when they come. And then when people leave though, we're sending them home with a Kineon because they see the effects. They're like, oh, I love this. Perfect. Here's a home device for you to do that's safe and everything like that. Send them home with it. And we do that rental program. And it's a very, I would say like low cost introductory way where, yeah. And if they don't want it, like it, or they only want to use it for 5 weeks and bring it back, well, the clinic made a little bit of money, the patient got better, and you got the device back to then get it on the next person. But if the patient loves it and they're like, I need to keep using this because they have a chronic issue, yeah, they hold on to that thing. And an example of that is my parents. I give them these devices. They have a Kineon. I gave them one of ours, and they'll get a nagging ache and pain, and they'll ask me, "Oh, I got this going on with my knee or shoulder or whatever." And one of the first things they'll say is, "Okay, did you put the Kineon on it? Did you do some red light on it?" And well, no. I'm like, "Why didn't you put it on it?" Well, so and so has it. They're like lending out. I'm like, I gave that to you to use. Tell them they need to buy their own. I go, I can hook them up with one, but they need to buy their own. That's for you to use. So get that back. And if they want one, tell them to come to me and I'll hook them up. But you need
That
to
is
put
so
it on
awesome.
yourself. That's why I gave it to you. So
I can't tell you
I
how
think
happy I
that's
am to hear
such a
that.
great way to
That's
use it.
amazing. Ah, such a great story. I have noticed also that I have mine set up at my desk for my morning work. We try to coach people into habit stacking, and I try to kind of live by my own coaching. And about 1 out of every 3 days, either one of my two kids or my wife has stolen it, and it's I got to go track it down. So I can't do it in my habit stacking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a great way to habit stack it too is like wear it while you're brushing your teeth or having your cup of
Yes.
coffee. Pair it with something so that way you don't forget. Right. So if you need to set a reminder in your phone and, oh, I'm having my morning cup of coffee and checking my email. Perfect. Put the Kineon on your knee and you're multitasking and not even knowing that you're doing it and feeling great.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? We've touched on the benefits of red light therapy versus traditional methods, when to combine them, which we're finding is probably the best bet, really, is a combination of physical recovery, physical
Yes.
therapy, really, and photobiomodulation. We see really, really good results. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me in today. It's always a pleasurable discussion with you. You've got great expertise and a great experience, and you're helping so many people with this. And I really appreciate the time you've taken with me today. And yeah, if there's everything we can do to help support, I believe we have a code set up for your listeners here, and they'll get $100 off of the device for the first week after this comes out, and then I think it goes to 50 after that. But we're any way we can support or provide protocols. One note is that again that we're mission driven, and we want to make sure we're not here to sell products. We want to make sure that people get the results that they're looking for. And so my partner and I have put our Calendlies out there for anyone who's not getting what they want or getting what's promised from a device and delivery standpoint. And what we found with that is that it really helps us build better protocols and build a better product long term. And I mentioned about the knee as an example, which before, if it's completely extended, the way we found out about this is by someone, 10 people saying, hey, this isn't working. And we found the commonality that the light wasn't able to penetrate through because they had it in the knee in the wrong position. So long story short, if there's anything we can do to support you or your patients or anyone who's using the devices in any way we can, we're 100% here for that, and would love to be able to support in any way we can.
Perfect. Well, first off, I want to say thank you so much. For anyone listening, I did not ask for any type of discount or anything like that, so it's very generous of you. So if you're listening and you're interested in a Kineon device, and whether you're a healthcare professional or you're simply just an athlete or someone in pain that wants to get better, check the link below and we'll have that link down there. And then is it okay then? You said your Calendly link. Do you want me to share your Calendly link, or is there a better way for people to get a hold of Kineon? I don't want to necessarily blow up your calendar with people.
No, we'll definitely get it over to you. But I think the easiest way with us is check in with hello@kineon.io, and that gets back to me as well.
Perfect. That will be in the description as well. So if you're watching this, you might be watching on YouTube, Spotify. That will be in the description. So check that if you want to get a hold of Forrest and his team at Kineon. And we'll have the links down there as well to the website. And then we have a webinar coming up. I believe it's like next week. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more to you. This is always a pleasure. I love this stuff. I can't get enough of it because I really think, we are only getting sicker and fatter, and like it's a real problem. It is a serious problem, and the life expectancy of people, it's going down. It's going the wrong direction, and it's companies like Kineon that are helping to reverse that and get it going back in the right direction. And it is really my mission to help people live active, healthy, pain-free lives. And so it's companies like you that it's a pleasure to team up and help people out there that are dealing with pain. So
that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Such a great talk today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Forrest. You have a great day. Everyone, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, comments, please put in the comments below and we'll get to those. Thanks so much.